It was in this boiling cauldron of honor, betrayal, and thirst for revenge that the most brutal ritual ever spoken of was born, the blood eagle. While many Viking executions were swift, a sword strike, a precise spear thrust, the blood eagle was reserved only for those who committed the worst atrocities. Treason, murdering leaders, or delivering insults that could not be forgiven. It wasn't enough to simply kill the enemy. His death had to become a spectacle of terror, a warning to all that no one betrayed the Vikings with impunity. Few people know that the name Blood Eagle comes precisely from the macabre image created during the ritual. Ribs spread open like wings, and the lungs exposed, seeming to flap like the blood-soaked wings of an eagle. But how exactly did such an absurd execution happen? Imagine the scene. The condemned man, often someone important, a king, a prince, a jarl, was dragged in chains to the chosen place for the ritual. There, he was laid face down on a cold stone, arms stretched out to the sides, as if embracing the ground itself. And that's when the real horror began. The executioner, wielding a sharp blade, made a deep incision from top to bottom, slicing down the back from the neck to the lower spine. Then came the most terrifying part. The prisoner's ribs were separated from the spine, one by one, and spread open like the wings of a monstrous creature. But it didn't end there. Not for the Vikings. The victim's lungs were pulled out through the back. Some accounts, almost unbelievable, claim that while the victim was still breathing, the lungs would inflate and deflate, trembling like blood-soaked wings. Now tell me, can you imagine witnessing this up close? Yet there was an even more disturbing detail to this ritual. Silence. Among the Vikings, it was believed that screaming during the execution meant denying oneself entry to Valhalla. Anyone who screamed died a coward's death. So the condemned, even while enduring pain so intense it would drive any man insane, had to remain silent. He died there, on an altar of stone, fighting the human instinct to unleash the most primal of screams. Some historians still wonder today, was it truly possible to endure all this without screaming? Or is that part merely another poetic exaggeration spread by skalds to magnify the myth of Viking courage? Either way, just the rumor of this ritual was enough to spread fear. Knowing one might end up with their back flayed open and lungs exposed made any enemy think twice before challenging a Viking leader. One of the most frequently mentioned names in these stories is Halfdan Longleg. Halfdan was no ordinary man. He was a Norwegian prince, son of the legendary King Harald Fairhair, the same king who unified much of Norway under his rule. But Halfdan committed a crime that no Viking could ignore. He murdered Ragnvald, the father of a powerful chieftain named Thorfinar, burning him alive and stealing his lands in the Orkney Islands. Can you imagine the burning hatred in Thorfinar's chest? It was that very hatred that drove him to capture Halfdan and inflict upon him the cruelest punishment he knew. According to the Orkney saga, the scene unfolded like this. And Earl Einar cut the blood eagle upon him, and cut the ribs from the spine and pulled out the lungs. It's chilling just to imagine. But if there's a name that bleeds even more fiercely in the stories of the blood eagle, it's that of King Ælla of Northumbria. His story intertwines with one of the most famous figures in Viking culture, Ragnar Lothbrok. Legend has it that after numerous raids and conquests, Ragnar was finally captured by King Ælla, who ordered him thrown into a pit filled with venomous snakes. As the poison burned through his veins, Ragnar is said to have uttered a prophecy that echoed through the corridors of history. The little piggies will grunt when they hear how the old boar suffered. This line wasn't mere poetry. It was a call for vengeance. In 866 AD, Ragnar's sons, fueled by rage and the duty to honor their father, invaded Northumbria with their armies. They captured Ælla and chose for him a fate of ultimate agony, the blood eagle. It's said that on that day, the king's screams echoed across the fields, and the blood that spilled onto the stone forever marked the Vikings as ruthless warriors, capable of the greatest atrocities in the name of revenge. But then comes the great question hanging over all these accounts. Did the blood eagle really happen? Or is it nothing more than legend, embellished by skalds and the human imagination? Few stories are as shrouded in mystery as this one. And here's where things get even more fascinating. Today, we know that there are 9 medieval sources written in Old Norse or Latin that mention the blood eagle. Some describe the ritual in chilling detail. Others speak only of something much vaguer, the carving of an eagle on the victim's back. But there's a detail that makes everything even murkier. None of these sources were written at the exact time the events supposedly took place. All of them appeared centuries later, often based on oral tradition, full of metaphors, poetry, and exaggeration. And so the big question arises: did carving an eagle really mean opening ribs and pulling out lungs? Or was it just a cruel metaphor? Some scholars believe that this expression might have meant exposing the body to ravens and eagles, a common fate after executions or bloody battles, or simply describing a violent death without necessarily involving ritualized torture. And when it comes to physical evidence, things get even more complicated. To this day, no skeleton has ever been found with unequivocal marks proving it was a victim of the blood eagle. But that doesn't prove the ritual never existed either. Many bodies could have been burned, thrown into water, or simply lost to time. Now, here's something hardly anyone talks about. From a medical standpoint, surviving the blood eagle is virtually impossible. Research suggests that once the chest cavity is opened, the body goes into shock almost immediately, making it impossible for the lungs to flap like wings while the victim is still alive. That horrific image was likely fueled by poetic storytelling and the desire to paint the Vikings as almost supernatural beings in their cruelty. But, and here's the crucial point, the blood eagle didn't need to truly happen to achieve its purpose. Even if no one was ever actually cut open like a blood-soaked eagle, just the rumor of this ritual was enough to spread fear across Europe and cement the Vikings' reputation as warriors capable of the darkest deeds. And let's be honest, the myth survives to this day. If you've watched the series Vikings, you'll probably remember the shocking scene where Jarl Borg suffers the blood eagle, with blood spraying and screams echoing among the torches. Or maybe you've seen the ritual appear in games like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, where Viking cruelty is portrayed in all its glory or horror. And even without definitive proof, the fact remains that the blood eagle has been etched into humanity's memory as the ultimate symbol of terror, vengeance, and cruelty. So tell me, do you believe the blood eagle really happened? Or do you think it's all just a cruel legend meant to frighten enemies? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear what you think about how far human cruelty can go. And if you enjoyed this video and want YouTube to recommend more content like this, give it a like and subscribe to the channel to watch the story of the King of Spain who was eaten alive in his own castle. Click right here on the screen to check it out.